So your wife just said, I love you, but I'm no longer, I think you know the rest of that sentence. She says you're a good father, a great roommate. You guys work together well, but the passion, the intimacy, all that is just not there anymore. The fire has faded out. You're probably feeling stuck, hopeless. You're trying all these things, scrambling around, trying to logically convince her, trying to listen to podcasts and watch YouTube videos, much like this one, maybe even some programs, books, and a therapist, and none of it seems to work. It's only getting worse, and everything you do is only pushing her further away. You know this woman is your soulmate, is the woman you want to spend the rest of your life with. And you also know if she could just give you another chance, things would work out, right? In this video, I'm gonna give you the 5 predictable and necessary steps you must take to win your wife back in a matter of weeks. The first step you must take with your wife is what I call the masculine mindset. I want you to imagine for a second you're rebuilding this house, and this house resembles the relationship you have with your wife. Now, if you don't have the right mindset, it's like having all the right materials and supplies and tools with the wrong blueprint. You're gonna put all this work into building this house back with her again, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be faulty and it's gonna fall apart because you didn't take the right steps with the right blueprint. You see, there is a reason why 70 years ago, the divorce rate was over 4 times less than it is now. Because men back then had the right mindset. The right mindset then was to be a provider for the wife. However, times have changed and no one taught you all the needs a woman has now, the modern woman. And so what happened is that you were using that old blueprint from the past with your father and grandfather that no longer applies to today. You see, women have 2 main traits that they need from a man. They need the provider male, which is bringing home the money and being a good father and all the things you are, but they also need these protector traits. The protector traits are being leading, dominant, non-reactive, assertive. And when those qualities give her the protector traits, when you combine both the provider and the protector, it creates the top 1% man called the apex male that she cannot leave because her brain, her emotions are just guided towards that guy from an evolutionary basis. The second step you must take to win your wife back is what I call the foundation of forgiveness. Now let's use that house metaphor again. I want you to imagine now you have the right blueprint. So you're building up this house with all the right tools in the blueprint and it looks great. But you forgot to check the foundation. Now that foundation is how you feel towards your wife and how she feels towards you. Now resentment is like this corrosive acid between the two of you. Now I know after years and years and years with each other, you both have done things to each other that has caused betrayal, has caused hurt between the two of you, trauma. If you fail to fully forgive her, in that foundation, it's gonna fall apart eventually. The way this looks on paper with her talking and conversation is that you could say 99% of the correct words with her, and then if she says something that triggers you with the wrong tone, and then you say something back to her, you know that's gonna spark that back and forth resentment, the arguing, the bickering, and that whole conversation is just gonna fall apart. For example, I was on a call with one of my marriage mastery clients the other day. We first came into the program, and he was telling me an example about all this infidelity she had emotionally with this guy. And they were in a conversation trying to work things out, and then eventually things were getting great again. And he said, hey honey, can you go take out the trash? And she went to the kitchen to go take it out, but she got a text message and she was sitting there on her phone texting. He went into the kitchen about 5 minutes later and she was sitting there on her phone. He blew up on her because he thought that, oh, you're just not listening to me again. And that one little act caused a huge blowout and a negative emotional investment, and the whole building fell apart. And I told him, if you fully forgave her for all the past things she did, truly, what would happen is those little moments would not blow up into this grand event of a conflict. So here's exactly how you forgive her with the correct foundation. I want you to imagine right now, if you're walking outside on the street and you had a scalding hot cup of coffee, okay? You're walking there and some guy bumps into you and all the coffee spills all over your shirt and you are just furious because it hurts. You look at the guy on the floor and you're about to have some choice words with him. But then you see a pair of big dark glasses a foot away to his left and a walking stick to the right. What happens to your heart? It changes, it melts, it softens. Because you now know that guy is blind and he did not intentionally hurt you. And it's so easy to think that because your wife is in an adult body and she did these things, she knew she was hurting you. That's not true. She was the blind man. When she did things to hurt you and betray you, she wasn't thinking about you. She was thinking about herself. She did not see how her actions would affect you. Having that different perspectives allows you to let go of the things she's done to build that solid foundation. Step number 3 in getting your wife back is to diagnose the divorce. You see, most men, when they try to fix the problems in their marriage, they're trying to cut off these branches of this tree. okay? The things on the surface, all the tree branches are like, oh, we fight over money, we fight over the kids, we fight over the chores, we fight over sex, we fight over religion, we fight over all these surface level things. And I tell people, you need to address the root cause of it all, the root cause of the divorce. You see, let's say, for example, you think you and your wife are arguing over money. That if you just solve this money problem by opening a third account, a joint account together, or you get a promotion at work, or you figure out a different tax strategy, or whatever the case may be, if your wife has resentment towards you, that is the root. So if you fix that branch, she'll just find another branch to grow out on and to find a reason to justify why you two should not work out. So instead of addressing all these branches, these logical reasons, find the root cause of why she feels the way she does toward you. Once you can address that, you fix the source of it all, and all these branches don't matter anymore because you guys flourish into a better relationship. The fourth step you must take to get your wife back is to master communication. Now, communication is the medium in which you convey these changes to your wife and how you heal through conflict and the problems. Now, I want to tell you something about the ETS scale that I created. I want you to imagine there's this scale. On one end is all the positive emotional investments you have with your wife over the years. That means the first kiss, the dates you've had, time spent together, kids if you have kids, the wedding, all these positive emotional investments are on this scale. But death by 1,000 cuts, the years of complacency, arguing, bickering, not spending time with her, not understanding her, it's created this weight that went from basically 4-to-1 on this ratio of positive to negative, then 2-to-1, 1-to-1, and this tipping point occurs. And that's why it seems like out of nowhere she wanted to leave you. Because as soon as the negative emotional investments outweighed the positive, in her subconscious mind, she did not consciously decide this. It's just she looked at you and you were more of a source of stress in her life than of positivity and love. That you were more the villain than the hero. And that's why she rewrites the history of you two and can only remember all the negative things you guys have in your life. So the way you shift this number one way is to understand how to communicate with her effectively, to understand the female mind and respond to her needs emotionally, and then it shifts that scale back into the positive perspective and she wants to work on the marriage with you again. Now, the number one way to do this after working with hundreds of men for thousands of hours are twofold. It's through CLC reports, which is closed loop change reports that you give to your wife to show authentic change, and potency actions, which are guided, intentional actions that you can show to shift that scale massively to the positive perspective. Now, the only way to create the correct CLC reports and potency actions with your wife is to understand what obstacles cause the marriage to be where it's at right now. In order to get that free evaluation to know what steps to take with your wife, click the link down below right now, set up a free call with a marriage evaluator. Make sure you're fully committed to saving the marriage, and we will give you that call and those steps to get her back. Now, the first 4 steps won't matter at all if you don't have this 5th step. This 5th step is called rising to the apex. It's connected to the masculine mindset. But let me show you a testimony of a recent client win.
I mean, and like we've already talked to therapists and we've told them where we are, and they're like, this is unheard of. People don't reconcile this strong and this fast. We're 2 weeks in, and I feel like I'm more in love with her than I've been in years, Josh.
Look, I can tell within the first 2 to 3 minutes of getting on a call with a guy when his marriage is falling apart if he's gonna win her back or not. The thing that every single guy has with his wife that wins her back is he takes full accountability and responsibility for why the marriage situation is where it's at. And he says to me, Josh, even if I don't win her back, I'm still gonna make these changes. I accept that it's where it's at because of my behavior, and if I change my behavior, I'll get a new result. I say to those guys, after they say that to me, I'll see you in a couple of weeks when your marriage is saved. That's how confident I am. Now, unfortunately, I cannot teach someone to have this belief. I can give you the tools, much like giving you a truck, the right engine, the right wheels, and all the stuff that you need to get to your destination of saving your marriage. But what I cannot give you is this gas, this apex gas, this fuel. That is the correct mindset and belief you must have. However, if you recognize this is a fundamental truth that you must have this mindset of rising to the apex and making these changes for yourself and not her, I promise if you do the other 4 steps, you will get her back. I'd love to help you out. Set up a call down below with our marriage evaluators, get that free assessment, get the CLC reports and the potency actions for your marriage, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.